my fellow Americans, this is former President Barack Hussein Obama, and you're listening to the Mad Titan Podcast. Please be sure to support this young brother from Chicago, Jay Washington, because he's a funny bastard. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I ignored my destiny once. I cannot do that again. Even for you. I'm the only one who knows that. At least I'm the only one with the will to act on it.
The Mad Titan Podcast with your host, Jay Washington.
What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It is episode 58, the actual episode 58 of the Mad Titan Podcast. I'm your resident supervillain, Mr. Jay Washington. What's happening, people? Hope you all, as always, throughout this entire global pandemic are staying healthy, safe, and sane, because I know it is now getting over-flustering for many people due to the fact that we are now in almost 2-month territory for a lot of people being in self-quarantine. So the mental break, if you will, is real and is there. And also, I had to say actual episode 58 because I realized last episode was 57. I don't know where I got 58 from. I didn't notice it until I was looking in the hosting site where I post the podcast, and I was like, oh, shit, my bad. I did that. Yeah, that was what happens. First and foremost, let me let you all know also, it is only me this week again, but nonetheless, I wanted to be here for y'all. Secondly, thank you to everybody who did respond about the previous episode when I asked you guys what day of the week should I release this for you guys. And thank you to all the tweets, all the emails, all the Instagram messages I received. We will be dropping this every Thursday. And I know you're getting this on Friday and you're probably asking yourself, Jay, what happened to Thursday already? Well, if you haven't been keeping up with the news, it's been a very, very trying couple of days. The video leaked of Ahmaud Arbery's lynching in Georgia, and as a black man, that seeing that was even more horrifying than just hearing the story. And it was also very upsetting the fact that I'd heard about this story 2 months ago when it happened, and the video leaked, and then and only then the district attorney of Georgia decided they want to press charges after considering pressing charges. It wasn't a slam dunk where they were just going to press charges. They knew they should do it. No, it was literally considering. And so that weighed heavy on me. Then to follow it up with the murder of Sean Reed in Indianapolis. If you didn't hear about him, he is the veteran who was killed while Facebook live streaming by police in Indianapolis. And after the police had murdered him, they laughed and mocked his death, saying this will be an open casket. And so for those who know me, and if you haven't followed along, I am a father of two. I have a 16-year-old son, and my son is, guess where, in Indianapolis. And within the past 48 hours, the Indianapolis police have murdered 3 people. So you can probably understand why my energy wasn't up to par to try to do this. I wanted to. I had the show prepped. I had all the notes together. I had everything I wanted to talk about here down. I was ready to go. Only thing I didn't realize was that I had the wrong episode number. But then all that happened, and it infuriated me. It upset me immensely. If you follow me on Facebook, if you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, all social media, you know I was upset. I was angry, and I still am. I was in tears because I've said this before in regular discussions. I don't know if I've said it on here, but I feel like it's open season on black people and no one cares. And when I say open season, I mean a forever open season. And so for those who do not understand what it's like to live in fear of leaving out your house, for the thought of you may not return home because you may be murdered simply because you exist, that weighed heavy. To have my 16-year-old son who is growing, who's a bigger kid now, who, he jogs to train because he's heavy in sports and he can make something out of himself, and to know that he could potentially be a victim, it hurts, it weighs heavy. So again, I apologize for not being here on Thursday, but I want to let you know why I was not here on Thursday. So if you can find it and understand to forgive, I appreciate it. If not, if you're selfish, then that's just on you. I think that's just on you. That's not on me to say anything more, because I could go in a whole diatribe about that, but I won't. What I will do is talk about what we're here for. And for those who know me, for those who know what the show is, and if you're new to the show, what I do here is get you caught up on everything happening in the Marvel and DC live action and cinematic universes. It is barbershop talk for nerds. So basically means I'm going to keep shit A100 with y'all. Shit's going on as much as it's not going on, but things that are going on, I'm going to be real. I'm not going to, as you would say a lot of people do, as bite their tongue for studios or actors or execs. I'm not going to do that. And at the same time, I'm not just going to be disrespectful as hell. So let me make sure I clarify that. I'm not just going to shit on something just to shit on something. If I dislike something, if I disagree with something, I'm going to have a reason behind it. And I will definitely tell you why. But let's kick it off like I always do, my Marvel news. And first, it's a little bit of news coming out of this. So in my first bit of news of the day, I have that Falcon and the Winter Soldier can basically resume shooting now. Now, allow me to explain this for those who don't get what I mean. So, the Czech Republic is allowing for productions to return to the country. Now, the major scenes in Falcon and Winter Soldier before the pandemic shut down productions were happening in the Czech Republic. And so they're allowing that to happen. Now, there's no word if Marvel Studios or Disney will go with it, but here's the thing. While productions will be exempted from certain restrictions, foreign actors and crew members will have to show a negative test result before leaving the country and entering the Czech Republic. They will also be given a second test upon arriving and will only remain quarantined for a maximum of 72 hours, which is much different to the 14 days that applies to other visitors. And now, along with this, these are other studios. Amazon has Carnival Row and The Wheel of Time in production there. And Netflix was working on 473 Transatlantic and Margaret, as well as Justin Kurzel's war thriller, Ruin, starring Margot Robbie. So this is a potentially good thing if this can happen. Now, of course, we know it is a risk all around with a lot of states and everything are going back to normal per se. They are back to businesses and businesses operating, And I know a lot of people are hesitant. A lot of people are skeptical. A lot of people are like, well, we shouldn't do anything until there's a vaccine, or some people even said a cure, and you really don't cure viruses in many cases. The vaccine is in most cases, at the most, they say 18 months away at the most. Some countries have said they've already found a working one. Some have, utilize antibodies. There's even a theory about some llamas, but who knows? Now, of course, like I brought up earlier, Disney may more than likely be willing to, go ahead and go back to filming and getting production going so they can have this drop in August, which it is scheduled to. But the question remains, will the cast be ready to do it? Will the crew be ready to do it? Now, this is kind of different than regular jobs. Because now you have it where a lot of businesses in a lot of states are allowed to operate, and a lot of jobs are holding the proverbial sort of Damocles over their employees' heads. Whereas now we're able to be operational. And so now you can come to work. And if you don't, you can basically forfeit your job, henceforth forfeiting your unemployment. So that's a different situation. Where it comes to these productions, you need these talents. You need these stars to be on set, because if you don't have these stars, you have no show. So it is really interesting to see how this will all play out. There are a lot of people who are ready to go back to work. It is what it is. There are people ready to go back to doing what they were doing and what they love doing, whether it's acting, singing, performing, working in a restaurant, people who want to go back to doing that. So to see where this plays out within the next couple of weeks, it's going to be interesting. Again, we're in May. This show is set to debut in August. And remember, with the movies, I've talked about this on previous episodes, with the movies being pushed back, you have to adjust the Disney Plus shows as well, because they all fall within the same timeline as a whole of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So they all have to play the same game, So don't think, for a second that they aren't looking at that as well. So just wanted to make sure I threw that out there. I want to know you guys' thoughts about that. Also, So we had heard many rumors about potentially in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, that when they brought all the Spider-Mans together, that there was potentially going to be live action webhead cameos. Well, the reason it didn't happen is it seems that Sony didn't allow it. So here's the story. Producers Phil Lord and Chris Miller did pitch a scene involving Spider-Ham interacting with the Spideys, voiced by Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire. But the studio felt it was too soon. They basically said, we pitched to Sony Brash an ambitious tag involving Spider-Ham, Tobey, Andrew, and Tom. This is what Miller wrote during his quarantine. He did a quarantine watch party of the movie, and they felt it was too soon. So now, when he says it was too soon, as a tag, he could have suggested that this would have been a post-credit scene, possibly setting up Into the Spider-Verse 2. Now, granted, we're upset it didn't happen because we all wanted it, but Sony is open to the idea, and more so, if anybody, you're actually going to get Tom Holland, if that. So this is another thing in which Christopher Miller said. He said there was going to be another Peter Parker. This is what he said to Joe. He said there was like a scene in a train station or something, and it was going to be like an Easter egg. I was going to walk through the background and say, hey, kid. Wow. So I'm just hoping, you know what I'm saying, that we get this in Spider-Verse 2. Like, again, Sony is super high on their Spider-Man as in Tom Holland, and yes, he is technically their Spider-Man. He is, lent to the MCU, but they're focusing on their Spider-Verse, so shit, let's see where it goes. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at all to see. I would be interested, though, to know if Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire would be up to it. I think that's the big shit. Like, is Tobey Maguire too far gone of it? Granted, there aren't days that go by where people are always referencing his Spider-Man. From social media and everything. You get videos, GIFs, and all that. And so, I mean, I'm for it. And some other news, Ryan Reynolds, he sees a quote-unquote infinite possibility for Deadpool within the MCU. Now, we know he can stay the way he stays in Marvel, right? But this is what he said while on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. He said that he was, he's excited about the prospect of playing Wade Wilson in the MCU, but he said he'd be just happy the character continued to do his own thing. So this is what Ryan Reynolds said, quote, I see infinite possibility in either version, If Deadpool were to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it would be explosive and amazing, and what a sandbox to play in. If Deadpool continued to get to do his own thing and be his own thing, also just like the infinite possibility. So I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I know a lot of people's arguments have been, well, if Deadpool can't cuss and shit and tell motherfuckers to suck his dick and he gonna suck their dick, I don't want to see him. And I'm like, yo, I don't think that's just what Deadpool is about. Granted, he is a foul-mouthed, fourth wall breaking character. I get this. I definitely get that. It would be interesting to see him break the fourth wall in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But at the same time, while he breaks it, you will have those characters who'll be like, who are you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And we'll have those cut scenes where there's literally nobody there, as opposed to what we would see possibly in the actual Deadpool movie, where it would be a cut scene and we would see the actual cameras and the crew sitting there. So it's fine either way for me. Like, I want to see him. I'm cool with it. A lot of people want to see the Deadpool Spider-Man interaction, and I think it's just going to come off hella creepy. Granted, it happens in the comics. I get it. Deadpool flirting with Spidey. And it's going to be weird, but that could be done. But again, that's also if Sony chooses to allow that to happen. Because remember, like I said before, Spider-Man is a lent character to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They don't own him. That's a Sony joint. You know what I'm saying? Like a Spike Lee joint. That's a Sony joint right there. So I'm interested in seeing that. Also, WandaVision is supposedly done filming. So they're done shooting. So they started shooting before everything caused chaos. And basically it's been said that they just added the VFX on the series and it may be finished. So that just leaves the editing, once the visual effects are done, you add the editing, boom, you're done. So I don't think we'll see it in December, though. It's done. We can see it. But the reason we won't is because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness has been pushed to 2022. And remember, though, that TV show is going to play directly into the Doctor Strange sequel. And there's no way that Disney is going to want that big of a gap between the two. Like, I understand what some people are saying, like, yo, just let us see it. But there's a story they're telling. There's a story. And you don't want to see freaking the WandaVision in December, and then you got to wait a year to see Doctor Strange 2 after you see all these other movies and all of these other shows. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's in the can. You know, maybe once everything, you know, right now we have a lot of dates set pushed back. And literally the only reason that got pushed back as far as it did, it was due to Sony changing the third Spider-Man release date. So that kind of screwed it up. You know what I'm saying? Now, if for some reason shit just changes and after all the studios look at all the release dates and they figure, hey, we can jump back into production. We can, you know, hopefully be on this time schedule. We can get this done by this time, have the movie edited this way, ready for distribution so we can release it on here. Granted, that's a lot. That's a lot stacked up. You know what I'm saying? But if that shit all happens, then possibly. But for December, that's reaching, baby. I mean, we're talking about the world as itself, as a whole, getting back to full schedule come December, which will happen. I was talking to somebody, and I was talking to my roommate, and we were talking about how, you know, now things are happening, and how some people are just like, oh, well, I'm not going to do all this. I'm like, yo, you had to realize it was inevitable that things are going to start back rolling. Sports, for instance, live sports. I've said it before, how it's going to be like a 4 or 5 phase plan. First will be the sports, the empty arenas and stadiums. Excuse me. Empty arenas and stadiums with just the players and the essential personnel. Then you'll go to these high value ticket holders, minority and majority owners, so you can fill in like the courtside seats, the lower tier levels on the stadiums and the skyboxes and suites. Then you're going to go to regular season ticket holders who are not as high of a value as the other ticket holders, and then the rest. That'll be like the phase in which you do it. You know, there's not a timetable for the phases, but those are the 4 phases they'll do for sporting events. And so with that, you know, like, hey, how are we going to handle that when it comes to productions and, you know, relating it to productions and filming and shooting and releasing and theaters, because we already heard how this is how it's happened, and the video on demand, release of these movies have potentially impacted theaters in the long run. Granted, there are some people who are always going to want a theater going experience, and a lot of these blockbuster movies won't be affected, but, you know, a lot of these studios have other movies outside of blockbuster films. And so those will have to, you know, be played into consideration when it comes to scheduling. This is both Marvel, Disney, and Sony, and all of them. So, again, it all ties back into WandaVision being released in December. It has to be followed up by Doctor Strange. And that's why you push back Thor. You push back all these other movies. So, I know. It's hella confusing. I know. That's it for Marvel news right now. Let me go over to some DC news. Now, here's a rumor. I don't like to report rumors, but this one is kind of interesting that I talk about because of who it entails and what it entails. So, we've heard that the Supergirl movie was going forward to WB, right? And this was primarily because Henry Cavill was out as Superman. So, there's no need for the Man of Steel 2, moving forward, anything like that. So, that was the thing. Well, it's being reported by Heroic Hollywood, who pretty much is credible. I trust Umberto, that the Supergirl movie is no longer being moved forward at Warner Brothers. Okay, it said the studio wanted to shift the focus away again, like I said, from Superman. However, they could be looking at bringing back Henry Cavill as Superman. Now, if you remember, he left Superman for creative reasons and financial reasons. And so potentially they could be willing to make the deal that him and his manager, Danny Garcia, wanted to bring him back as Superman, because I understand we keep changing these heroes. We keep changing the actors who play them. And granted, some actors don't want to play these characters for a long time. We got to accept that. It is what it is. Shit. Some people aren't content being superheroes. They aren't content playing in this one realm and being this one type of character, not a one-dimensional character, one type of character. And we've seen that with Henry Cavill going over to The Witcher, what he did in Mission Impossible Fallout, just to speak, just a few others. So I get it. But also, here's the thing. Supergirl has this Superman right now, right? On the on CW, excuse me. And there is a Superman and Lois series coming to the CW as well. So I know people are like, what about all these goddamn Supermans and Batmans? Hey, Warner Brothers and DC has continually done it, and it will still continue to do it. Again, the Tyler Hoechlin Superman was around when Henry Cavill was playing the Man of Steel. So, there's no conflict in that. It's just will it actually be Henry Cavill? Granted, yes, Warner Brothers says they want to stay focused on Superman now. They're like, yo, we want to do this. And of course, there was backlash from fans. All right, so here's that point of the show where Jay has to go in for really he shouldn't fucking have to, but he does. Yo, if you were crying that they were fucking doing a Supergirl film over Superman, shut the fuck up. And this ain't just to man babies. This is to woman babies too. You know what I'm saying? This is to women babies too. Shut the fuck up. Kara Zor-El is an interesting character. Now, granted, it took a while for us to get that when it came to the CW series. I will admit that. The first season was on CBS, didn't really feel right, but also was just a bunch of recycled Superman stories tailored to fit Kara. Then they started using some things from Kara, and they still do use a few Superman things, but now they've given Melissa Benoist's Kara Zor-El a bit more depth and character. And if they can do that there, again, I believe it can be done with the film. It does all involve the casting, the writing, the direction, all that. So before motherfuckers started crying, well, if it ain't Henry Cavill, I don't want it. Well, guess what? Henry Cavill was never meant to stay Superman forever. Just like when when Hugh Jackman finally got done being Wolverine, like you had to let that go. That man had been Wolverine for 20 fucking years. Let him live. You know what I'm saying? Let him live. Robert Downey Jr. gave us 12 years Iron Man. If Chris Evans gave us damn near 10 years of Captain America. So like, yo, calm down. People can move on and studios can move on. I think that's the biggest thing. Not just the actors, the fucking studios. They don't have to hold to what none of us think or believe they should. They are allowed to do whatever they want. You know why? Because it is their properties. I know some people are listening like, well, we the paying fans, blah, blah, blah. Yo, anytime people do that shit, it really annoys the piss out of me. And I'll tell you why. And some of you may agree with me, some of you may not. If you don't, oh well. Here's why that statement just annoys the ever-loving piss out of me. You do realize, because you're a paying customer, if you leave, 2 more replaces you. And I know a lot of people try to use that. Well, what if a bunch of us leave? There will never be a mass exodus enough in that regard when it comes to these type of properties to mitigate a significant dent in anything. You want to know why? Star Wars. No matter what you might have felt about the trilogy, they still raked $1 billion each. If they were critically received, is nothing. At the end of the day, yeah, they may shift some things because Star Wars is a certain thing. But look at what Warner Brothers did when we had the DCEU. They didn't give a fuck how you felt at first until the big collective movie bombed. But as a whole, it's about what they make. So if they're making billions of dollars, if they're making this hand over fist money, like some movies aren't expected to make $1 billion. Some just need a clear budget. And if it makes a profit off of that, you're good. So calm all this shit down. Granted, they put it to the back burner. But had they decided to move forward with Supergirl, let them fucking do it. Let them fucking do it. And if you don't want to see it, guess what? You don't have to see it. I never understand why people act like it is mandated that they go see every single movie in a certain genre in which they like. I do it when it comes to comic book films, especially in the Marvel and DC realm, because that's the shit I talk about here. That's the shit I do interviews for. It's one of my jobs. I'm brought on to many different avenues to talk about this because that's what I do. So I go see them, so I know what I'm talking about. And so if I didn't, it'd be a different story. I'd be like, yo, I ain't gotta go see this. I don't. It's just that simple. Like, these are real talk lessons with Jay Washington. All right. Next story. For some reason, David Ayer is still catching backlash for the over-sexualized version of Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. Now, here's why I keep saying still doing it. Suicide Squad came out years ago. Well, no matter how we felt about the movie as a whole, a lot of people want to say Harley Quinn was over-sexualized, and I understand because all we saw her in the cartoon was the jester outfit. And then we had the sexual nature Harley Quinn, but Harley Quinn's a sexual being, and Margot Robbie gave something about it. I get it, and I understand directorial directions. I get that. I absolutely do. But I also will use in comparison, as a defense, if you will, all of the women and the guys who decided to cosplay as that Harley Quinn to be able to flaunt and be proud of their bodies. So for as much as people call it over-sexualized, it was a doorway for self-expression for a lot of people. So, like, you got to pick and choose your battles. But nonetheless, so David Ayer, he announced on Twitter that his next project was going to be an adaptation of Harlan Coben's 6 Years. So a Twitter user ended up tagging him, right, and wondered if he was going to, quote, have the women in the movie in super booty shorts and give us gratuitous ass and tit shots. So David Ayer responded and said, why would I do that? I know I'm a man, but I have a good soul and I support and believe in feminism. It hurts to be attacked like this. I'm not your enemy. That same user responded, don't know, mate. You did it in Suicide Squad, so thought I asked. Good for you that you learned, though. He said, what have I learned? Should directors only direct women in coveralls? What if an actor wants to be depicted as a sexual being? Am I permitted to do that? What are the rules? Help. Now, he absolutely has a great point behind it. Margot Robbie is a star. She's an A-lister. Had she not wanted to wear that, she could have made them make changes very easily. Granted, we got a whole different type of dress of Harley Quinn when it came to Birds of Prey. But again, that's Kathy Yan's choice as the director. And because, yeah, it's like, hey, how do you feel about this? Margot Robbie has to give the yes or no. She can give some input as to what if we go this way? What if we do this? What if we add this? What if we take away that? So I don't like the way people came at him in a sense of, yo, you just hypersexualized her. And he's like, yo, he's literally telling you the character is one way. The actor chose to portray the character in a certain way as well. The onus does not solely fall on me. So don't do that. Like, I get it. As a dude, it's very hard to toe the line of what we should and shouldn't talk about, how we should not express ourselves, especially when it comes to things of that matter. Now, Harley does shots where, even the shot where she was changing clothes in front of everybody, it's meant to have the gratuitous tit shot, as it's called, because it's meant to be seen as that. I know you're like, some people are like, yo, do you have to show it? But you got to kind of get what the scene is telling you. You get what I'm saying? The scene is telling us a certain thing. And it's hard to explain without sounding like I'm mansplaining. And I know that's some shit. And I fucking hate, to an extent, the world we live in now where this becomes a situation. I do. But I digress. If the man has moved on, The Suicide Squad is directed by James Gunn. David Ayer is doing a whole nother project. Suicide Squad was God knows how long ago. Can we let go and let God? Can we just move the hell on? All right. Let's get into some of the TV shows from the Arrowverse. Again, The Flash was back. This is the season before the episode, the penultimate episode before the season finale, which I think is going to be a weird season finale because, of course, due to the COVID-19 shutdowns, they were unable to complete filming. So it's kind of a abridged season. And the fact that Mirror Master the new Mirror Master is your big bad, and I really don't think there's been built anything to warrant her. They haven't had the chance to really build her as the big bad, as a maybe a couple of episode arc bad guy, yes, but the big bad, I don't know. And don't get me wrong, it is better than Bloodwork for sure. It is way fucking better than Bloodwork. And I did have some more DC news. Let me get back into it. I just noticed I put it in the wrong spot. But here's something that I wanted to talk about. So that's my chair you hear squeaking in the background. I need to do something about that. So Grant Gustin, The Flash, has addressed fan complaints about the lack of the Scarlet Speedster in season 6. How many times have I said, just put on the fucking suit, right? Now, if you notice how it played out, since Crisis, the Speed Force has died, and Barry Allen only has a part of his speed. Well, Grant Gustin was asked about the complaints as to why we haven't seen the Flash in the suit for much of the season. This is what Grant Gustin said to Entertainment Tonight. He said, quote, "I would say it's safe to say, hold out hope that we're going to figure this thing out. Whether it's an artificial Speed Force or restoring the Speed Force, I've got to imagine that we're going to figure out." Yeah, we're not going to see that in season 6. So again, it's one more episode. But when it goes back to Grant and how he feels not having the suit on, this is what he says, quote, "For me, it's been fun. I mean, it's different. And at times, I haven't even worn the suit for entire episodes. Like me and my wife LA watched this past episode together. And we were like, that was so weird. I wasn't in the suit once. As a viewer, you're like, aw, man. But when I'm shooting it, I'm like, man, I'm not in the suit once. Like, I'm so comfy." And he laughs. He goes on to say, "So that was a plus for sure while filming, and it's just different. I mean, a lot more Barry. It's fun, and at times it's hard to play Barry so discouraged constantly, and he's been kind of at an all-time low, especially his confidence for the second half of the season. So that's been weird to play and different. But it's always nice to change things up." Here's where Jay takes a dramatic pause. Here's where Jay has to figure out what to say without coming off like an asshole, but also remember and telling y'all he's going to keep it A100 with shit. Bruh, you're the fucking Flash. I get the Flash is also Barry Allen, but you are cast in the show to be the Scarlet Speedster more so than just Barry Allen. All of Barry Allen's issues are ultimately resolved through being the Flash, and it literally seems like the death of the Speed Force angle was a plot, in a sense, to get you out the suit as much as possible. Now, I don't know how much of that is true, what I just fucking said, but if it is, and you don't like being in a suit, don't be the character. Don't be the character. I mean, the show is it's not Barry Allen. It's about the Flash. It's the hero with the suit on. I don't know if I'm missing something here. Now, I understand. I get it 100-fold that a lot of times the suits are uncomfortable. Because I've heard it from him. I've heard it from Cress Williams. I've heard it from Nafisa Williams. I've heard it from different characters. The suits can be uncomfortable because they're so tight and body form fitting to get that superhero shape they want. I get that. But at the same time, you've had 9 different fucking suits. 9 different suits, bruh. You even had a black suit that they didn't do any. Well, it was the suit before they painted it. But I just don't get it. Maybe I'm missing something, y'all. There's something about your Barry Allen I like. And as far as, the complexity of the character, if you will. And I like what he does. I like what he does as the Flash. But I want to see him as the Flash. Is that so hard? Is that so wrong? Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm lost on something. I don't know. Let me know. Tweet me. I don't get it. But I did have another piece of DC news I forgot to get to that I wanted to get to now. So remember, the New Gods is still happening, right? Ava DuVernay is currently writing it with one of the writers of the comic, Tom King. Now, we hadn't heard anything about it, right? But Ava DuVernay took to Twitter to let people know that All God, the queen of the insectoid people of New Genesis, will be in the movie. So, somebody on Twitter tweeted her, Ava, some news on New Gods, please, Ava. And Ava says, because you asked so nicely, working on a 4th draft of a scene featuring All Widow this week. I am fine with it. So now, All Widow, like I said, she's the Blood King of New Genesis, whose insectoid people are seen to be infuriated by the New Gods. So she's also going to be in the movie with Darkseid and the Female Furies, which means Granny Goodwitch, I think, is that her name? Yeah, that's her name. Because I couldn't, I just blacked out for a second because my brain is going so many different places. But like, yo, tell me that's not dope when you know you're getting this. Granny Goodness. Not Granny Goodwitch, Granny Goodness. So, of course, we're getting the Female Furies. We're getting Granny Goodness. You may get another... You might get Steppenwolf again because of, this is set in the past in a sense. But I'm here for it. Like, possibly getting Big Barda. We're getting Mr. Miracle. Like, yo, it's so many characters we're getting out of this. I'm happy. So to say you're giving us All Widow, which means you're going into an in-depth story. You're adding a lot of layers to this, and this is going to be similar to what the Eternals is. There are going to be a lot of characters a lot of people are unfamiliar with, so it would be a very good recommendation that before this movie comes out, you go and hit up Comixology, hit up the DC Universe, and read up on the New Gods. Get caught up on it. Now, granted, it's not going to translate exactly the same. No comics ever actually do. They have very similar. They may have plot points similar, but they're not the exact same thing. But you'll get that. All right. Let's go to Legends of Tomorrow now. I love Matt Ryan as Constantine, and I'm going to give him praise real quick in Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. I'm going to do a full review on that on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/JAYWashington80. I don't know if I'll be doing it with Winston A. Marshall or not. I'm going to contact him today, see what the deal is. But you need to check out that movie. Matt Ryan as Constantine is now, you see no one else ever doing it. The fact that he is amazing as live action and even great doing the voice because the character and the voice just still go together, it's amazing. To see that... To see the relationship, the triangle that's building between, not even a triangle, a rectangle, between Nate, Zari, Constantine, and Astra. And Constantine and Astra's is not a love thing, is the only part. Because, and I say that because Constantine wants to help Astra get her mom back. Zari's low-key getting feelings for dude, but he didn't want to help. He didn't want Charlie to use the loom to first bring back Bayrod. And then Nate, like, yo, you the chick I was with till we brought in your brother after we screwed up the timeline. Like, that's the thing. And that may be the reason, if you watch this episode, spoiler alert, they got all the pieces of the Loom of Fate, and they were trying to bring Bayrod back. Because Charlie decided that was the person they were going to do first, and she couldn't. And I'm wondering, even though she was like, because she probably been rusty because she hadn't done it for a while, or she needed the power of all of her sisters, I'm also wondering, is it because Bayrod is a time anomaly? I'm mad we won't go full in depth into it. Probably won't get into it until season 5, whatever the next season is. Legends has been going on so long right now, I forgot what season they're on. But, Bayrod is a time anomaly. So I wonder, is it if the Loom can't bring him back because he wasn't supposed to be in this time anyway? I wonder. That's the thing. The fact that they brought the dog from the Son of Sam, the one that supposedly told the Son of Sam to kill people, that is a great pickup. Again, these encores and them using the worst people throughout history. I love how, again, there is no real canon when it comes to superhero lore for Legends, but you can use a lot of historical figures and stories, and it's a history lesson with a lot of fun. Mick Rory and his daughter is the greatest shit ever, because it's like a dude who never wanted to be a dad, who doesn't know how to be a dad, have to learn how to be a dad from a daughter who, to an extent, didn't want to be bothered with him. And now he's trying to show his best. It's so dope. And also, you get Sarah, who's now blind. And I knew in this episode, I fucking knew that even though Gideon was down and couldn't figure it out, I was like, Gideon's going to be back up and be like, yo, there's nothing wrong with it. I can't change anything. So now Sarah's ability is being blind. But like Charlie said, you have another vision, another sight. I just hope, and I know I just seem like I ramble about that, but I just hope at the end of the day, this is not how we get rid of Katie Lotz from Legends. Like, the Trinity that has been around from Jump have been Mick Rory, from Jump, were Mick Rory, Ray Palmer, Sarah Lance. Ray Palmer's gone. Mick Rory's there, and now Sarah Lance is at this juncture, and I just don't want to see her gone. Like, I have no problem with the Legends team, and I've always said it, even when I was doing Trusty Sidekick. The beautiful thing about Legends is that cast members can rotate in and out. That is true. That is fair. That is fine. I understand. But there's been a core. There's been a nexus. And if you want to say even cast member that still stayed around, Gideon. Gideon has been around. But it's hard now seeing that not that Trinity happen, and who knows, man? Who knows? Check out the Harley Quinn review myself and Winston A. Marshall have up right now for episode 6 from Harley Quinn on the DC Universe. It is up on my YouTube channel, as I said before, youtube.com/JAYWashington80. Make sure you check that out, all right? Yeah, that's all the news I have for right now. So at this moment, I'm going to go to all of my calls and emails from the Mad Titan Podcast hotline, okay? 276-6947. 276-6947. And if you don't feel comfortable hearing your voice, or you don't want to be able to leave a message, go ahead and send me your questions in via email, madtitanpodcast@gmail.com, madtitanpodcast@gmail.com. I'm going to go to my first caller right now.
How's it going, Jay? This is Tyler calling from Kentucky. I got to thinking, Batman probably has one of the best rogues galleries of any hero, but we only see a certain number of them on screen. My question is, do you think they'll possibly bring in lesser used Batman villains, such as Hush or Firefly or even Prometheus, for upcoming movie or TV roles? And do you think these villains could work in a live-action movie? Love to hear your thoughts. Thanks, Jay.
All right, as always, thank you, Tyler from Kentucky, for calling in, man. I always appreciate your calls. You always give good questions that literally stimulate the thought process, man, and make you think. And yeah, Batman does have a very extensive rogues gallery. But here's the thing. We've gotten Hush in Batwoman. I know it's not the same, but they have utilized Hush. Firefly, we got Firefly in Gotham before. Again, not the direct same. I understand. The Prometheus one, we got Prometheus in Arrow. So we have gotten these villains before in TV. Now, will they go and utilize them the movie route? I don't know. Hush may be one for sure. I'm not 100%, but we haven't heard anything about it. And also, I doubt you would use Hush just as a wipe off because, a wash off, because you're focusing on the Riddler as the main antagonist in the Batman. But we have gotten these characters before. We have seen them before. They've been utilized. The problem is, when it comes to Batman himself, I have to keep telling everybody, Batman is a $10 million property. He is not a property you will easily see on television. He is one of those properties that literally costs to use. There are so many people that have to be paid in order for them to use Batman. So that's why you'll have him being used with Arrow, who was the version of Batman without being Batman. Have him being used on Batwoman and whatnot. And so, and even in Gotham. So it would depend on how far this Batman movie series goes that we have now. Like, we know we got The Batman coming thanks to Matt Reeves. Now we need to know There's talk of him already working on developing the sequel. We need to know how far that goes before we decide we see any more. Again, yeah, Batman's rogues gallery is extensive, and it is a shame we only see certain select few, but also the select few we do see, unless you are a comic book fan, to be quite honest, most people don't know of them. Will be realistic with you. Unless you're a comic book fan, the average person doesn't know these rogues galleries members, so you get, unfortunately, what you get. But I digress, man. It's a good question. As far as movie goes, I can't answer that. The movies is the movies are the bigger question, more so than TV shows, because we'll always get them. We'll always utilize Batman's rogues gallery in television because it's a way to reference Batman without referencing Batman, and by that you have that villain, and you're like, oh, that's such and such villain from this Batman, issue in this series and whatnot. So. Hope that answered your question. Thank you so much, Tyler. And again, if you want to get your calls in, 818-276-6947, 818-276-6947. Like I said before, if you don't want to hear your voice, you don't like your voice on phone, all right, go ahead and send me an email. MadTitanPodcast@gmail.com, MadTitanPodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you guys for rocking with me for the 58th episode, the actual 58th episode. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys, man, for understanding. I'm going to have these regularly. I have a whiteboard in my room that I use to keep my notes, and I log down stuff that I need to do, make sure I have done. And it literally is up on my board, new Mad Titan podcast every Thursday in big, bold letters, so I know it needs to be done. So please believe that I'm making sure I got that for you all right? Thank you so much. And while you're here, please go ahead and rate and review this episode. Rate and review it. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, wherever, iHeartRadio, please rate and review. What this does every week is it gets it higher in the algorithm. I need to get these numbers up, y'all. I need these numbers up, and y'all know this is so dope, and this is so fun, and more people I love when people come to me on the street who are fans of the podcast I've never met, but I want more and more people to know about this. I want to spread this, I want to be like, yo, the people who rock with Mad Titan are so dope. They've helped spread the awareness of the Mad Titan podcast, if you will. And so I appreciate you all. But follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington. You know the drill. MRJAY. Say it with me, ladies and gentlemen. You should know how to spell Washington, all right? Join my Patreon, my Supervillain Squad, patreon.com/Mr. J Washington. If you want to show some love and support, you want to do that, go ahead and support at the squad. But shout out to all the members of my Supervillain Squad right now. Shout out to my newest member, Fillmore Pockets. Thank you so much for joining. My existing members, Adalia Chamberlain, Alberto Rios, Akeem J. Brown, AZ Badfish, Blue 87 Jones, Brandon Buckingham, California Joe, Christopher Connolly, Kasi Nachalobe, David Adams, DJ Snacks, Fanboy Cantina, Fred Castillo, Greg Morshik, Hank Staley, Jake Icavetta, James Smart, Jeffrey Chadorn, Jim Mason, John Mariano, LK, Marcus Kennedy, Marcus Burton, Mikey Lito, Paisley Darts, Randy Constance, Rudy Rueda, Samir Tesfaye, Steve Tozen, and the Prince That Wasn't Promised. I am so grateful for each and every one of you all. You guys don't know how much your support has actually helped me up throughout this entire crazy madness. If you really didn't know, it really has helped me out. I just want y'all to know that, all right? So, thank you for everybody there. Make sure you are checking out the YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/JAY Washington 80. I have some new reviews up there. I have a review for Extraction on Netflix, Hollywood on Netflix, Black AF on Netflix, Harley Quinn, episode 6 of season 2. I'm about to do Mortal Kombat Legends, and I will have Justice League Dark Apocalypse War up there as well. So there's so much going on up there, all right? What else? Blurs in the Hood every Tuesday live, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. on the East Coast, 4 in the Centrals. And if you're in the mountains, figure that shit out yourself, all right? Myself and Winston A. Marshall, we go live and we cover the world of pop culture as a whole, internet stuff, music, media, nerd world, all of that, and we have a blast doing it, and we love when we interact with you guys who are watching with us as well, all right? I will holler at you guys next week. Till then, take care. I'm out of here.